At time of recording, Beltane is in full swing. For those of you wondering, time recording is, let's see, nearly 10 to 6 on the 21st of June 2024. Yes, my video schedule tends to be a little bit behind my recording. That's just the way things go. But those of you who are familiar with the Celtic calendar will know that this is wrong. Beltane, as the name suggests, is celebrated much earlier, during the month of May. After all, it's named after the Irish name for the month, Bealtaine. Anyone who pays attention to Druids will know that the current Celtic festival is Litha, the summer solstice, which has been and gone last night. The longest day of summer. Now it is towards the decline of the year. It's sad when you think about it. Though strictly speaking, the Celts and even the Jews celebrate the New Year around the end of autumn, at the time of Samhain or Rosh Hashanah. But why on earth would the people of the Scottish borders have their May celebration in June? Why? Are they just very, very late? Well, not really. It's all down to the Victorians, or one Victorian in particular, after whom the era is named. Queen Victoria. What was the name of her house? Victoria Hanover, yes. Queen of the United Kingdom, of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and Empress of India. Oh, and also she had jurisdiction over, what was it called? Oh yeah, Berwick-upon-Tweed, which led to an interesting situation later down the line. You may have seen that in a previous video. She sat the throne for over 60 years, and it was on the 60th year of her reign that she came to the borders of Scotland. Around about this time. And the people decided, we're going to move our Beltane celebration to that time, so we can actually celebrate with her, pretend it's all about her, and then just keep going like nobody notices. As they had the cornet out, they had the May Queen, the Beltane Queen, the Beltane Court, the entire thing. They just made it about Beltane rather than the Queen. Thing is, I think someone forgot about it after that, because it stayed the same point of time ever since. It's remained nearer to Litha than it has to Beltane. It's been at least 200 years or so, I think. Now, you could call me a Beltane purist, having done Beltane festivals when I lived down south, and was the green man for many of them, striding around with my staff and my antlers, calling people to join the parade as we stride for the woods to the sounds of a lute, drums and pipes. Should I be doing that in Peebles? Probably, but I'll come back to that. Because it reminds me an awful lot of a particular group. You may have guessed it, I am the Beltane equivalent of the 7-day Adventists. For those of you who aren't aware, the 7-day Adventists, much like the Jews, still hold that the Sabbath is on Saturday. Because that's the day that God rested. Their reasoning is actually quite sound, because not only is that measured in the Bible, but also it's well known the Catholics came up with the idea of moving the Sabbath to the Sunday. Or did they? Well, whilst they officially said they moved it to the Sunday rather than keeping it on the Sabbath, strictly speaking, they merely focused the day of celebration on the day that Jesus rose again. Hence they named it the Lord's Day. Only in a few poems is Sunday referred to as the Sabbath day. In most other languages it is referred to as the Lord's Day. I'm pretty sure in French it literally means dimanche, the day of celebration. Now, anyone who has done any form of celebration, be it a party, be it organising a get-together, even just a simple group of friends, knows that it is not a restful thing, celebrating. Oh no, no. It is really, really stressful. You've got a lot of organising to do. You've got to sort out all the guest lists, all of that stuff, and then you've got to set up on the day and tidy up afterwards. It is not restful for the host, no. The priests, therefore, would literally be the ones breaking the Sabbath if they celebrated on the Sabbath. Would the Catholics be listened to if they said, this is the Lord's Day, this is where we're going to church? Probably not. So that's why they moved it. If you guys want to be purists about it, then by all means, be the people who say, this is the Sabbath day, this is the day of rest. But remember, it's a day of rest, not a day of celebration. So take a chance to rest, relax, as it is actually from, the word Sabbath is from the root word, I don't remember what it is, but it literally means rest, literally. So there's no excuses to say that, how do we know it's not a day of church going or a day of rest? It's well known as a day of rest, it was in the language. So, what am I to make this into? Am I to go striding around Peebles during the middle of May, around the Ides of May, saying, come join the parade, waving my staff around? Maybe. But then again, just because they celebrate Beltane at a different time doesn't mean I can't remind them that technically you missed it. Beltane's gone. I can remind them the history of it. But I can let them do their celebrations. This is something important to learn. Beltane, like the Sabbath, was moved by humans. By human reckoning, by human, what's the term I'm looking for? Human whimsy. Got moved by humans for humans. It stayed the same. Beltane is still in May. The Sabbath is still on the Sabbath day, which is a Saturday. So, regardless of our human understanding of things, things often remain exactly the same. We like to think that our perspective of the world is what makes it so. That is so egocentric. I genuinely think that people need to tap their brains out. Just because we understand gravity doesn't mean that it's going to change for us. No. It was never changed from the force that pulls us to the centre of the Earth to the very thing caused by the pressure of mass on space-time that causes it to bend, causes it to concave. No, it was always that. We just didn't understand it. The same is true of flat Earth. Whether or not you believe it, the Earth will remain no matter what shape it actually is, because it just is. We need to explain to people how. Whether God exists or not, it's not for us to say. If he exists, he does, no matter what the atheists would say. I often say, we understand God in many different ways across the world. Interestingly enough, I mentioned this in a video that should be up by now, I reckon. Which definitely will be by the time this is out. That no matter how you perceive the creation of the universe, it happened in a certain way. And in fact, both the Greco-Roman and the Judeo-Christian happen to have close enough similarities to the scientific model that one can almost say they are all of the same source. So despite people saying that the Greco-Roman was plagiarized by the Christians, simply comparing it to the scientific model isn't too far off, in my opinion. That was a bit of a flimsy way of putting it, but basically, look it up, compare the three, you'll see there's enough similarity between all three that there must have been a single source. And if we accept one as true about the others, then we must accept there was a source. Regardless of what we view the world as, it's going to remain the same. Be it a flimsy place, a war, or a place of love and beauty. Be it hard, cold and grey, or sparkling with magic. No, it doesn't matter. It is. It just is. I personally don't understand the whole idea of NPCs in the simulation idea, the Matrix idea. Because how do we know that someone else is an NPC? Well, we're assuming we're the main character in that case, which is the such egotistical way of looking at it. We're the main character, we're the ones that know things. So it must be the case that we are the ones that are right, and anyone that says otherwise is an NPC. Another thing to remember is that we may think of things as mythical. We may think God's mythical. We may think other animals are mythical. But it's just the way people look at them or name them that gives them a different perspective that gives them a different lean. What if I told you that people believed a giraffe was a far less realistic creature than the unicorn? Well, to be fair, the giraffe is never mentioned in the Bible, whilst the unicorn is. Does that make it right? Or does that make the unicorn mythical when some people discount the Bible? Well, not really, because the giraffe was originally referred to as the camel leopard, which, if you think about it, is actually fairly accurate. It's a relation of the camel. It walks like a camel, but has the spots of a leopard. People knew about them back then, hence camel leopard. I remember talking to a bunch of children doing a weaving talk, and I asked, what animal does wool come from? One person mentioned llama, which led to an interesting conversation where I, as a Celt, had to ask, what's a llama? Eventually we got to the idea that it was a goat as big as a horse with a long neck, and it has wool like a sheep. And I concluded they had gone mad. But nevertheless, regardless of how mad I thought the idea was, in character, I knew full well the llama existed. So did they. And interesting enough, so does the unicorn. If you bear in mind that in the dictionary, a unicorn, well, the classic unicorn is a horse with a horn. If you bear in mind the nearest relative of a horse with a horn is actually a rhino, a rhinoceros. It's just a different use of language. Then you see that the rhino was indeed the unicorn, and indeed there was another animal known as a bicornus, which had two horns. I'm not talking about the elasmotherium, which is the Siberian unicorn, or the woolly rhino, as it's sometimes known. No, I'm referring to the actual African rhino that would have lived sometime and somewhere around about the Egyptian peninsula, or the Egyptian area. It would have been well known by the Israelites. So the rhino, or the unicorn, certainly does exist, just not in the way we expect. When you look at the details of it and then compare it to others, you can see it's still there. Again, just a tweak of perspective. In the same way the Sabbath is still a Saturday, and the same way Beltane will always be in May. Regardless of what other people think, the world is the way it is. Some people will fight it. Others will just realise the best thing they can do is accept it. And understand other people may not accept it. In science, they would think of this as the evidence is there, but people may not choose to accept it. You see that a lot with flat earthers, you see that a lot with anti-evolutionists, and you see that a lot with people who have evidence for God right in front of them, but refuse to see it. It's all about perspective. Nothing to do with intelligence. It's just a different way of viewing the world. So remember, remember that. Stay humble, stay safe, and God be with you.